you want to get in contact with us, you can visit us at facebook.com/THNDRSmash. You can visit our Twitter @_ThunderSmash. You can visit our Instagram, Thunder_Smash. And you can send us an email at teamthundersmash@gmail.com. And as always, you can visit our home on the web at www.thundersmash.com.
Welcome, and thanks for tuning in. You're listening to ThunderSmash.
Don't give up on the marriage.
What would you have me do, Charles? I've heard these arguments before.
It was a long time ago. Mankind has evolved since then.
Yes? Into us? Whatever are you looking for?
I'm looking for hope.
I will bring you hope, old friend. And I ask only one thing in return. Don't get in my way. We are the future, Charles, not them. They no longer matter.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Joe.
And that's Gengar, and Matt's not here today.
Nah, he is sick.
Feeling a little under the weather. And regardless, this is still ThunderSmash. The show must go on.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's ThunderSmash, that means it's also the nitty-gritty of all things nerdy.
Mm-hmm.
Put that extra vocal fry at the end. Put that Zap Brannigan into the nerdy part. So what are we talking about today, Joe? I have actually no idea.
We are actually talking about...
Just kidding. I do.
You know, something uncanny, I'd say.
Uncanny?
Yeah. Strange,
unsettling?
Uh-huh. The Uncanny X-Men.
Okay.
That's like the Incredible to their Hulk.
There's the Incredible Hulk, the Amazing Spider-Man, and the Uncanny X-Men.
I'm not joking.
No way.
That's real, yeah.
I thought you were joking.
That's them.
That's stupid.
It's uncanny that they were born with superhuman abilities.
I mean...
Let's start with a fun fact.
I wouldn't say that's uncanny.
Wow, that guy's flying. That's uncanny. Sure is uncanny.
That's singular, I'd say.
What does that mean, singular?
Unique.
I guess.
But that's what
not really in the superhero world.
That's what Victorian writers say is unique. A singular circumstance happened to me today.
Oh, I hate that.
My uncle came into my study.
And he's a vampire. Let's cut
Kill
to the
him.
chase.
Kill him. Kill him now. Anyway, tell me my fun fact, or your fun fact that I'm going to learn.
Let me ask you. Maybe you know the answer. Why are they called the X-Men?
They're the Xavier men.
Nope.
Dang it.
It is not a self-aggrandizing name for Charles Xavier.
They're no violence men.
No.
Because that's not true.
They used to be men. Now they're supermen. No, that's not it either.
They're
actually that kind of is. The X stands for extra.
Oh.
It means extra. Like that. He call in one of the comics. He says they're called that because they have extra human powers. They are the extra X-Men.
So we're what, 3 minutes into this podcast, and I've been disappointed twice.
What was the first time?
Uncanny. They're the uncanny extra men.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so 1925.
Well, it didn't come out in 1925.
No, it came out in 1963.
That's true.
So they were better at putting words together then.
Mm-hmm. But not quite. Stan Lee has a flair for the cheesy. If you ever hear him, like,
sure.
You know, he likes alliteration and fun, colorful things.
He likes to say things like, superheroes in New York? I don't believe
it. Anyway, we're going to talk about how the X-Men and the civil rights movement are parallel.
Bet you didn't know that these things were related.
I
I imagine that a lot of people would draw that parallel. But if you just... I hadn't really thought about it.
I think I kind of realized that the Professor is very MLK-ish.
Really?
Yeah. Because he's about, change, but not about violence. So it's pretty MLK.
I saw him more as like a Nelson Mandela, Gandhi-esque kind of dude.
Gandhi...
Although
I don't know.
They share a lot in common.
All three of those people were into the sit-ins. Like, the X-Men do some Black Ops stuff.
Right. And that's... We can talk about that later, but I definitely think that Xavier
is a bit of a hypocrite.
He departs from the MLK thing.
Yeah.
But... Wait, do you want to just talk about that now?
Their beginnings kind of are more, parallel to the people that are in real life.
Yeah, Martin Luther King was shot in the spine and therefore was paralyzed, and then used his mind powers to recruit an army of followers to take down Malcolm X and his followers.
Yes.
That's word by word the Wikipedia page of the Civil Rights Movement.
It is now. But no. So Stanley created the X-Men as a kind of follow-up to the Fantastic Four, because the Fantastic Four was a team that did really well, and then he wanted to create another team, but this time he in his own words, he ran out of rays. He had done the Hulk, he had done them, he had done Spider-Man, and he used gamma rays, he used
what other
cosmic rays for the Fantastic Four, and then a radioactive spider. So he's thinking like
radioactive. Huh?
Oh, I guess
that's the ray.
So he was like, how the heck am I going to, give all these people powers? And he's like, I'm gonna, in his own words, take the coward's way out. He said,
really,
or like the lazy man's way out, and gave them like they were born that way, and that way he wouldn't have to explain away their powers.
And
except for you still do. But the idea of mutation was from the beginning, and they were actually originally going to be called the Mutants, not the X-Men.
And the other group is the Brotherhood of Mutants.
Right.
But so he needed one more Ray, and he was like, Ray Charles, Charles Xavier.
No. Anyway, it quickly became apparent that in the 60s, when these comics came out, this was a great vehicle for discussing civil rights. Because you had a group of people, human beings, that were born a certain way that made them different than the established peoples of the United States.
The dominant race.
Right. So it was just a clear opportunity to talk about civil rights in a comic book medium. As the comic writers fleshed out the characters, Mr. Professor Xavier, Mr. Professor.
Excuse me, Mr. Dr. Professor Xavier.
He started to mirror MLK, and parallels can be drawn between Magneto and Malcolm X.
I find it hard to believe that that during the creation of these guys, there was no thought given to the civil rights movement.
I don't know. They were, according to him, it was that exact question is asked of him. Yeah, when you sat down.
I feel like that's
maybe subconsciously.
That might be a cover just for the fact, like.
Well, he's asked by the crowds today. He would get applauded like crazy if he said, "Yes, we sat down and we wanted to take on,
continuity."
Whatever.
Because originally he wasn't like that, and now he's continuing to not be like that. Well, anyway, so I find it hard to believe that there was no thought given to the civil rights movement, because these comics were first published in 1963. The civil rights movement ran from 1954 to 1968. This is in the thick of it. The March on Washington happens the same year. And Martin Luther King is assassinated 5 years later. Malcolm X is assassinated 2 years later. Mm-hmm. So this is this is when the entire nation is gripped by this huge, like, should black people be treated the same as white people? Question. There's a whole nation, and they're like, oh, let's create a group of underprivileged people who are born with a certain characteristic, and let's make them oppressed by humans, and then let's have this relationship develop where one person is for diplomatic and peaceful relations, the other person is for radical militant relations.
Well, I mean, it could be that when he first sat down and he started writing it out, he was like, whatever, new group, they're gonna be born with it because that's easy, and before they even printed the first copy, they were like, hey, let's make this about civil rights. Maybe that.
Sure.
But the question asked to him is always, did you create the X-Men to be a mirror of civil rights, to talk about civil rights? And he always says no. So, but he always says no, but it became that because it was an obvious vehicle for talking about that. So, I mean, that's what he says. You can call him a liar if you want to. That you're not. That's not gonna come out. You have to whisper louder.
No, people heard it.
So, what do you want to talk about the ways that they mirror their real life counterparts?
Sure. So, like I said just a little bit ago, Professor Xavier wants to find a diplomatic and peaceful solution to allow humans and mutants to live in harmony. So he's often at like Senate hearings and
in the first movie you see Jean Grey talking at a Senate hearing,
and I think she does a bad job of, she gets like steamrolled.
No, she doesn't.
Doesn't? It's been a long time.
No, I think Senator Kelly or something says, well, we license. Here they're talking about it's the idea of registration, and mutants should register their powers and names and stuff. And she's saying, no, thank you. And Senator Kelly is saying, we license people to drive because driving is dangerous. And then she says, yes, but not to live. So she kind of like has answers for him.
And that's how that ends?
Yeah.
It's been a long time. I wish I'd been able to watch this movie before we started.
This is another one that I've seen a lot of.
Really?
The first one, at least.
We got to do Lord of the Rings so that I can be like up to date on exactly what, because I've memorized that movie. But yeah. So that's his Xavier's goal is to promote harmony, and his vision of the future is just everybody living together in peace. He
wants just like, okay, so he doesn't want separation, and he doesn't believe that either side is superior.
Right.
He wants integration and harmony.
And his efforts are constantly undermined by Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants, which are constantly doing kind of guerrilla, militant attacks on humans. Not necessarily like wanton violence, but they have goals that are bigger than just, oh, let's just cause mayhem. Even though they technically are terrorists, it's not for the sole purpose of causing terror. It's for the purpose of making mutants the dominant. Because
right, but even to most terrorists have a goal.
The goal is, I mean, the religious goal is to kill infidels.
But a lot of times it's to destabilize, like that's the idea of terror, is to destabilize and like.
Sure, but Magneto will go in and kill a bunch of people so that he can steal something, and then walk around with that thing that he stole. I mean, if those people weren't there, he wouldn't kill them. They're between him and his goal, and he has no problem killing humans.
Okay.
But
a lot of the times, the thing that he's stealing is something that will kill all humans
or change them into mutants.
Right.
Because he believes that mutants are the dominant species, because they are different species,
and they all are in science in that world called Homo superior. Like, how's that fair?
That's like unobtainium from Avatar. But yeah, they are different species, which is where kind of the parallel between this and the civil rights movement diverge because we're the same species, black, white, Asian, whatever. So there's no we have differences, but we're all equal, and no one is in any way genetically superior.
That's not necessarily what they believed.
Right, but that's the case.
Right. But it still parallels because, clearly racist white people believed that they were superior. And Malcolm X believed that black people were superior.
Right.
Whereas MLK believed that nobody is superior.
Right.
But in which case you're saying you could argue that mutants technically are superior.
Technically are superior, yes.
Right.
They are the next stage in human evolution, according to this story.
Right.
Which is not the way. It doesn't matter what kind of evolution you believe in or whether you believe in evolution. That's not how evolution works.
Yeah. Why would everyone have a different power?
Right. It would be like something like everybody has yellow eyes all of a sudden. There's your mutation. And if you want to take it to an extreme example, it would be everyone can breathe underwater or everyone can...
or it would have something to do with environment. Why would a kid in suburbia need to set things on fire with his mind? He doesn't.
Well, right. That's what I'm saying. Like it would be a product of your environment demanding it. So,
right.
like I said, everybody could breathe underwater or something, even though everyone would die before they could mutate that. Or it's like people having an added resistance to radiation.
Right.
So if a bunch of people started living in Chernobyl after 100 years, those generations would eventually be more resistant to radiation. That would be their mutation, and they would be the next stage in human evolution.
You know what the next stage in human evolution has been for the last several decades? Is being able to digest milk as an adult. You're not supposed to be able to do that.
I can't imagine you would be.
Yeah.
But milk is delicious.
Milk is supposed... A lot of people don't think so.
If Matt were here, he would not agree. He hates milk.
Yeah, like apparently people who are lactose intolerant are normal people, and people who can drink milk are... it's a mutation, technically.
Huh.
Because it's... First of all, it's not necessarily natural to drink
Another
the lactation
mammals.
from another
Right.
mammal. But it's definitely not natural to drink it as an adult. Baby animals are weaned off of it, and that's how it works. But we keep drinking it because it builds strong bones, even though it doesn't.
It's pretty good.
It's good for kids, but it's not necessarily
It does
helping adults.
It does help.
Apparently not.
There's some studies that say like, it takes just as much calcium to digest milk as it does as it adds. But there are others that say that's just not the case. It adds more calcium.
Science is fickle.
It's fickle because people use it to their own gains. But anyway, so we're suspending our disbelief that humans would mutate so randomly and in such unique cases. No two people have the same powers.
Mm-hmm.
What? It's not a product of environment or circumstance. It's just, nope, now we're mutated. It's just that time of millennia. It's that time of era for humans to evolve to the next stage, according to this Marvel universe. But yeah, I would say that they have powers. So they are superior. They are naturally endowed with. Most of them are naturally endowed with weapons, like
offensive capability.
An offensive thing, which makes. I guess I can skip to this because one of the things that Senator Kelly says is he says, which parallels obviously the civil rights movement, Brown versus Board of Education. He says, "Now I think the American people deserve the right to decide if they want their children to be in school with mutants." Mm-hmm. Now, when you watch it, you're like, "Oh my gosh, Senator Kelly, what a meanie." But then, I'm not a parent, but imagine if I was a parent of a regular kid and the kid who's sitting next to my kid can explode when he's mad or can shoot laser beams out of his eyes, or just when he screeches, the whole building comes down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my kid near that kid.
Also, like...
I want him to be safe, and I don't want to, like, it's basically like giving kids guns and telling them not to use it and sit in class with your gun.
Well, it's not even giving kids guns. It's like giving a kid a gun that will go off unless he learns how to control
Right.
it. And like a lot of the times in the comics, characters find out that they have powers in bursts of that power manifesting. Like Magneto. Apparently in the comics, he kills a bunch of people the first time his power ever manifests. By accident.
And it has
also,
disastrous consequences.
Also, according to the comics, it often manifests in puberty. So you want a pubescent kid with like amazing, like crazy offensive powers?
No.
To like suddenly burst into flames in the classroom? Probably not.
No. Do you know where you want them? You want them at Xavier's school for gifted youngsters. Talented youngsters.
Gifted youngsters.
Is it gifted? No,
Yes.
it's talented. It's talented youngsters.
Not in the movies.
Really? What I read was Xavier's school for talented youngsters. I think
It's definitely gifted in the movies, but I'm not. You could be right.
For the youngsters or for the adults? Because there's one for the adults, his school, right?
Oh, talented adults?
No, I think,
youngsters is definitely gifted.
Really? Well, that's not what I saw. But so that's where these kids should be educated. Is it gifted?
Mm-hmm. I just typed in Xavier's school and it filled in for gifted youngsters.
No, well then the article I read was wrong. But then educating these kids separately from humans kind of subverts his whole philosophy
Right.
of segregation. I mean, it makes sense that you don't want human kids with mutant kids, especially if they're level 5
Honestly,
mutants.
you don't even want mutant kids with other mutant kids.
You want a mutant kid to be totally by his or herself until they figure out what's going on.
Yeah, this is a transitional phase. If you take the idea that it's the next stage in human evolution, it's a transitional phase, because like it's not productive for a creature to explode and kill everything around them, like as a part of puberty,
or to shoot lasers out of your eyes whenever you open them.
That's an accident. He could control them before he hit his head from falling out of an airplane.
Is that in the movie or in the comics?
I think they talk about it in them, but it's not. I don't think it's in the movie.
That he used to be able to just beam people
When he was a child, yeah.
Okay, because then there's the X-Men Origins movie where Sabretooth goes after Cyclops, and Cyclops has his glasses and he like lifts them to shoot Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Or shoot at Sabretooth.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I agree. I actually agree with Senator Kelly. I don't think that, at least on the schools thing, but having everyone live in harmony, that translates to adults too. You know, because not everybody is a nice person who's willing to keep their powers to themselves. Suddenly, you know, a percentage of the population has crazy abilities, and you know, how are you going to defend yourself if Colossus or Juggernaut decides to rob your home? You're not. You're dead.
Well, there's real-world parallels to that now, too.
Not really. Even if somebody is armed to the teeth, you could still take them down with your gun. There's still a level of parallel. Even if they're, you know, heavily armed or have a bunch of people or something like that, it's still not one person is naturally endowed with just the ability to take what they want.
That's true.
Like,
right,
Colossus could survive an attack from the army. Like, he could take on an army.
Yeah, and they make that point in the movie. Like,
Storm manipulates the weather. She can make crops dry up, or she can flood a village.
She did do that. She was a African, like, tribe's deity.
Yeah.
For a while.
That's just too much power for one person to have.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely... See, there's where it breaks down. Where you have this idea of the next stage in human evolution is everyone having ridiculous powers that are all different, that it doesn't lend itself to being a civil rights narrative. But if you suspend your disbelief to the nth degree,
strip it down to its bare bones,
it can be a civil rights narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see all the parallels, but it breaks. I'm just pointing out the part where it breaks down.
Right. And it definitely breaks down, like the specific parallels break down too. So, even Malcolm X, who is supposedly paralleling Magneto, they both had troubled childhoods. Malcolm X had his father was outspoken for black rights. He had this idea of everyone going back to Africa, which I feel like is what they were yelling at them in the streets. So anyway, people didn't like that, so they killed him. And his mom went to an insane asylum because of it. So he had a troubled childhood. He ended up getting busted for larceny and breaking and entering. And you can parallel that with Magneto. His parents were Jews. They were in the Holocaust, killed in the Holocaust.
Killed in Warsaw.
Right. Making them both angry youths.
His Magneto's original name was Max Eisenhardt, which he actually paid a Romani forger to change it to Eric Lenzer.
Huh.
So he just took on that new identity after. But this is all after he demonstrates his powers for the first time. This is kind of the new person. He goes through a lot of phases.
So did Malcolm X. Malcolm X was originally Malcolm Little, and he became Malcolm X. The X represented his lost tribal name.
Did it represent extra?
No.
Malcolm Extra.
And then he changed his name again after a pilgrimage in the Middle East, in Africa.
He went to Mecca.
Yeah.
Because he joined the Nation of Islam while he was in prison.
Right. While he was in prison, he joined the Nation of Islam, which...
I just said that.
was a black Islamic group that was very, could be paralleled by the Brotherhood of Mutants because they were for separation of blacks and whites, for the idea that blacks were superior, for the idea that you should use violence as a means of self-defense, not as a means of establishing a new we're going to take charge. They advocated for self-defense.
Well, Malcolm X did think that power should be replaced. The white power should be replaced with black power. Mm-hmm. But here's a quote from him. "I am for violence if nonviolence means we continue postponing a solution to the American black man's problem just to avoid violence." He says violence a lot, so it gets kind of confusing near the end. But basically, it's like if we take MLK's path and nothing happens, then
he wholesale rejected the civil rights movement because he didn't believe that
it technically was a civil right. He was part of the civil rights movement overall, but he wasn't. He rejected the peaceful diplomatic strategies.
Sure, he rejected the civil rights movement.
The civil part of the civil rights movement.
But then it starts to break down because after his pilgrimage, he came back to start he rejected the Nation of Islam because he found out its leader, Muhammad something or other, which Elijah Muhammad was a perv. He was seducing women and had several children with different women. He found that out and he was disillusioned by that. So he went on this pilgrimage, came back and started a new organization that was kind of less militant. And then the Nation of Islam saw that as a threat and didn't like him. So that's where it breaks down. Magneto never really has that third change.
Although he has several changes.
Yeah.
He goes from being Max to being Magnus, I think.
Yeah.
And then his child is in a burning house, and a mob stops him from saving her. So he goes. This is his magnus opus, and he kills the mob with his powers. And then his wife leaves him, and then he changes his name to Eric. And then when he dons Sebastian Shaw's helmet and parts ways from Charles Xavier, he becomes Magneto, which he should have started from the beginning because he's like a magnet.
Yeah,
but not
and
quite.
His wife's name was Magna too. Isn't that
was
stupid?
it Magna?
Yeah.
His name was Magnus, and she was I think it was Magda. Was it Magda?
Yeah,
it was something
maybe.
close to that. It was like, that is lazy naming.
Yeah.
All Max.
Yeah. Maggie. Max.
So you have even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is a different origin story for Magneto. Slightly different because his parents are still killed in the Holocaust, and he goes through a concentration camp, and he goes through the Jewish registration process, and he has the number tattooed on his forearm. He comes to America, and then so he's an immigrant, and he finds the exact same thing about to happen. He sees a similar climate that caused that Hitler to rise to power,
Right.
like a fear of a minority that had power. In the Jews' case, they had financial power, and so and he sees like Senator Kelly as this growing fascist leader, maybe. So you kind of understand where Magneto's coming from. That if you were him, you'd be like, no, nuh-uh, this is not happening again. Obviously, the never again thing for the Holocaust. And so you'd assemble a bunch of people like you and be like, all right, well, what can we do to make this not happen? But the difference is, America's not a dictatorship. We can create policies and legislation and use diplomacy to make change, which is the point of Fievel.
Yeah. Although, to his credit, I have no idea how they would handle that problem. Like, physically dangerous people just existing.
Neither of them really had a good solution, neither Xavier nor Magneto.
Yeah.
Because Magneto's like, I don't see a solution, but, I mean, the way this is going, mutants are going to be enslaved, are going to be subjugated, eventually eradicated, which... There's this new Logan movie coming out, which apparently that exact thing has happened. And then there are a lot of you think of Days of Future Past or whatever that takes place. The very opening setting is just that all of the mutants are being eradicated systematically by the Sentinels, these non-metal robots, because the humans created them, and that's the thing. Humans are adaptive. That's the idea that a lot of movies that involve aliens credit humans with. It's like, oh, humans are tenacious. They don't live long. They're really soft and easy to kill, but they're tenacious. They're survivors, and they'll adapt to whatever situation they're given. And that's kind of what this does. It's like the mutants are kind of rely on their power, but the humans are like, all right, so let's build something that takes away that power.
Yeah. But let's talk about this. Let's imagine that the first movie, spoiler alert, in the first movie, Magneto forms a plan to use a machine to give regular humans mutant powers. Mm-hmm. Basically forced mutation.
Right.
The X-Men find out this power won't work, or this device won't work, and it actually ends up killing humans. Let's imagine that it works. Would that have been a good solution? To give all of the people in wherever the machines reach, give them all powers?
I honestly don't have a solution for this whole thing.
But I feel like that one is not barring the fact that not consenting to this is a bad thing. It's just like it's like giving someone a vaccine forcefully, even though it's a good thing, it's still like infringing on their rights.
Or it's like, hey, all these people have guns, all these people don't have guns. We're going to glue guns to your hand. Right. Not glue guns, but we're going to glue actual, real guns to your hands.
glue guns.
So that everybody is on the same playing field.
Right. But in a world where children can explode and people can walk through walls, is leveling the playing field the only possible solution?
I mean...
Because I feel like it's way more justified if you think about it that way.
Well, the idea that once everybody's super, no one will be. There's different levels of mutants. So you could have you could have the one guy's ability where he like turns into a pufferfish or something like that, or you could be Jean.
Literally has to give someone a hug to use his power
in order to kill anybody, and Jean can like dismantle atoms with her mind.
Phoenix can.
She's still Jean,
technically
deep down inside
in the movie, but not in the comics.
What? It's separated from her?
It's a celestial force that takes over her body.
Oh, so fine. So it's like you credit the Hulk with things and not Bruce Banner.
That's like an awakening. That's a split personality.
You're like, Bruce, you just destroyed that whole thing. It's like, that wasn't me. That was the Hulk.
No, because that was a split personality that came from, genetic modification. This is literally some thing floating around in space decides to come down to Earth and take over Jean Grey. In the movie, It's something that awakens inside of her. But in, like, the comics, it's another being.
Okay, so she's really not super powerful without it.
No.
She has telekinesis.
Yeah.
Or no, telepathy. She doesn't have telekinesis.
She has telekinesis and mild telepathy.
That's it?
Yeah. Xavier only has telepathy.
Okay. Telekinesis is a powerful
Yeah.
thing.
But she, like, in the movie, she struggles to, control it and actually really use it expertly until the Phoenix takes over.
Okay. What was I saying before? Corrected me on... yeah, so you have some people who have, like, crappy superpowers, and then you have others that have incredible superpowers, like the Juggernaut or something like that.
Which is, like, an absolute... His power is an absolute and impossible.
He can't be... Like, nothing can stop him once he's in motion.
Yeah. And there's the Blob who can't be moved.
Is he in the X-Men universe?
Yeah, he's in the Brotherhood.
Is he in the movie?
I think he's in one of the movies, but it's like a brief cameo.
Okay.
But I remember they go head
to
head at one point, and it's the ending is not satisfying.
It should just end. Whatever.
It's a paradox, and the world explodes.
Yeah, I mean, it should just be. It should just be like the ending of the Hulk versus Wolverine. It's like after 30 minutes of basically watching the Hulk beat the crap out of Wolverine, it just ends with a still of Wolverine jumping at the Hulk.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, well, I guess this is going to be an eternal battle of Wolverine going through a lot of pain.
Really, Wolverine should give up.
He should run away, but he can't. How do you give up and run away from the Hulk?
You just kind of let him beat you up until he gets bored.
I guess, yeah.
Because I don't know.
Or eventually he'll get so mad he'll pick you up and fling you to a place that he can't find.
That's funny.
It's like
that's what would happen
in The Incredibles when he's like, I'm Syndrome, and then he like flips Mr. Incredible, and you just see him kind of like drifting in the background, and Syndrome's like, oh great. That's how I imagine that. But so once everybody is, that's the second Incredibles reference I've made, because before I was like, when everyone's super. When everyone becomes a mutant, then the ideologies are the same. Because you can say there's no separation anymore. It's all right. It's not mutants versus humans. It's now the goal is how do we create a new world where mutants can live
Right.
without destroying everything or each other.
Plus, you might have a class system too, that naturally comes out of some mutants have like rinky-dink powers, and some can like kill everyone with their mind.
Yeah. I really wish that it had been more subdued, because one of the things I really like about the X-Men is that most of them don't have like incredible powers. I mean, it's incredible, but most of them don't have. They're not OP. They're not overpowered. Where in the DC universe, it seems like every other person has the ability to eat worlds and manipulate cosmic energy.
Well, there's definitely Marvel has their fair share of those types of characters.
The X-Men usually live in their own vacuum. A lot of what takes place doesn't include the other X-Men or the other Marvel characters
in the movies.
But still, like the Hulk
because
they're
a Sony thing and not an MCU thing.
But still, even in the comics, the Hulk doesn't often visit Xavier's home for talented or for gifted
I'm sure
youngsters.
There's plenty of times.
You're sure it's plenty of times?
There's literally everything you can imagine happens in the comics because they're ridiculous.
And
vast. Come out every week.
For the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Almost 60 years. But one thing I like about the contained X-Men universe is that most people have powers that they would need to use creatively in order to bring about what they want.
So why don't you love the Fantastic Four?
Because those are bad movies.
True.
I like the Fantastic Four. Stretchy power. All right.
But he's also the smartest guy on Earth, basically. Apparently.
True.
Reed Richards.
Is he smarter than Bruce Banner?
Yeah.
And Tony Stark?
Well, those guys have specific types of intelligence.
I feel like
Bruce Banner is a chemist, a biologist.
I thought he was a radiologist.
No, that's
that's something totally different.
he's the
every time you
go
to
who does like cancer treatments.
Every time you go into a radiology clinic, it's just a dude with Bruce Banner's intellect.
And then Tony Stark has, mechanical engineering.
Well,
stuff, ideas.
Tony is
an inventor.
He's an inventor, but and by necessity a scientist. But that's not his focus. Where that's Bruce's focus, and it's also Reed's focus. So they're both like physicists.
Yeah.
I think Banner's a physicist.
Yeah, sure.
But because if you deal with radiation, that's physics.
Okay.
But what was I
Reed's
even saying?
crazy intelligent.
Oh, I like the Human Torch a lot. I think the Human Torch is awesome. I think his powers are cool, and but the way he was portrayed in movies, not so much. But he
can supernova.
Yeah, he can supernova, which is pretty awesome.
And also, would wreck a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everything.
So he's very, very, very powerful.
So would the Flash, though. If you take a step as the Flash, you're wrecking city blocks.
Sure, but the Human Torch would beat the Flash. Because if the Flash runs through the supernova, I don't even think the Speed Force can save you from that.
Well, first of all, he can't instantly supernova.
Right, but Flash can't instantly go the speed of the speed of light. He needs to build up.
In reality, the Flash takes one step at a decent speed, and he's wrecking the city block.
Well, he would need to go a nice percentage of the speed of light in order to start releasing, having kinetic energy be released with his footsteps.
Yeah, but
once he starts, obviously he goes so fast, he goes back in time, and then comes back and punches you with the force of decades.
Shut up. Comics.
Which in reality, the Speed Force apparently not only protects him, but protects the world around him.
And the laws of physics.
And and allows you to suspend all disbelief.
That's what the Speed Force does.
Yeah.
It suspends your disbelief.
It is the suspension of disbelief for that character. But really, it's not an ex machina, but what? There's got to be a word for a plot device that just fixes everything all the time. Not just fixes the end of the movie, but just says, "Oh, these characters, how would they get food? They have a magic food making machine or something like that."
Star Trek, The Next Generation.
Food making machine?
Yeah, they have those.
Okay.
So they make synthetic food.
And you're like, oh, that's how thousands of people live on the Enterprise for years at a time.
Yeah, and how there's peace on Earth.
Oh, because synthetic. Although I believe that eventually synthetic food will be created.
Sure.
With enough pressure and heat, you can change any atom into any atom.
If you could clone... I don't get why they don't... It must be really difficult. They should work on cloning more. To clone meat.
They have worked on cloning.
Like...
A lot.
Get to it.
But everybody's...
Make me a dolly to eat.
Everyone is afraid of GMOs, and everyone is afraid of where the ethics of cloning will go once it's unleashed.
But a lot of people agree that GMOs are good if they can solve world hunger. And that is a big argument for them. But
do the majority agree? And do the people with a lot of money agree?
The people with a lot of money agree.
I feel like they should just
the people
make it happen.
with documentaries don't agree.
The Michael Moores don't agree.
Right, the Michael Moores and the Morgan Spurlocks of the world.
The anti-capitalists.
And everyone in California. Except for
the governor.
People with lots of monies.
Anyway, let's bring it back to X-Men. But how? What were we talking about before we got derailed by...
We're talking about, is...
Oh, yeah, how would changing everyone into a mutant fix it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would be the beginning of a solution.
Yeah.
It might take 20 more years for them to start, let's start creating houses out of things that aren't flammable.
Would it have been a better solution to have an inoculation that gives you powers?
Or an inoculation that takes away powers. Didn't they do that? Isn't that one of the movies?
See that, but that's...
You can have your... Oh, I think Angel does that.
Yeah, they did have that.
Angel has his power taken away.
Yeah, and Rogue wants it too.
That's X-Men 3?
Yeah.
Man, I don't remember that movie. I don't remember...
There was a child who his mutant ability was take
yeah.
away mutant abilities.
That's like...
Which is a weird mutant ability.
I mean, that's like Heroes. There's the one guy who, if you're in his presence, your powers don't work.
Yeah.
Whatever his name was, I can't remember. Heroes, they didn't say it was mutation. It was just the Eclipse started it, and the Eclipse can take it away.
Yeah, there's another one where a storm... Misfits is a thing with the dumb powers. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a dumb power.
Everyone has the ability to manipulate cheese or something.
Yeah, there was a lactomancer.
Oh.
in that show.
Oh, I love that. Lactomancer. Anything with mancer.
There was a guy who could turn into a woman and back, just instantly look like and be a female version of himself.
An androgymancer.
An androgyman. He doesn't control gender.
Oh no, he just controls his own.
Yeah,
he controls his own sex.
Yeah, much like a frog.
Like a frog.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about that, you can listen to last week's episode about genetics, chaos theory, and the one-take man.
The one-take mancer. He controls one takes.
I listened to that episode just recently. We talk about Jeff Goldblum so much. So much more than dinosaurs.
Anyway, so would that be a good... Okay, so if you take away powers, that's inhibitory. But giving powers is enhancing. So it's more positive.
It's like the Sneetches. You ever read the Sneetches? The Dr. Seuss book?
It rings a bell.
Sneetches on Beaches?
No.
Where the Sneetches are these weird Dr. Seuss animals. Just imagine a Dr. Seuss animal and you've got a Sneetch.
Okay.
And they live on...
Is it small and furry?
It could be small. I don't know.
Is it long and furry?
It's got a long neck. It's got kind of like a brontosaurus face. With the good
good
dinosaur face.
Gotcha.
And some of them have green stars on their chest.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
suddenly these
I know what you're
super
talking about.
privileged creatures, and then the ones that don't have stars, they don't get to roast frankfurters with them on the beach or sing songs with them. And then this guy comes along and says, his name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and
Well, that's two last names that are both Irish. Is
or,
it hyphenated?
or Scottish.
Yeah.
Sylvester though.
No. What is that from? What do you think that is?
I don't know. That sounds like
Sylvester Stallone. Stallone is
that's Italian. He's
Italian,
the Italian stallion.
but Sylvester's not Italian. Was that German?
There must be like Silvestro,
Oh, maybe.
like Sinestro. Anyway, Sylvester McMonkey McBean has this machine that can give stars to the Sneetches that don't have stars, and then when they get stars, the ones that already had them originally were like, "We're gonna. Can you take ours off?" And then McBean's like, "Yeah." And then the ones without them are. So that they go through the machine and they don't have stars, and they're like, all right, now the ones that don't have stars get to roast hot dogs and sing songs. And then they just keep going through the cycle, and it makes McBean really, really rich.
And that's why you don't try to be like the cool kids. You just sit at your own table and make your own like marshmallows. You know?
Because being cool isn't about having certain characteristic, it's about being elitist.
Yeah.
It's about tribalism.
Yeah.
And that's what X-Men is about. And that's what the civil rights movement was about, was tribalism. It's us versus them, in group, out group. And that's the basis of a lot of conflicts over the course of human history. So stop being tribal.
Yeah.
Everyone out there. If anything in your life is us versus them, just dissolve yourself of that philosophy.
Yeah.
But don't dissolve yourself like Senator Kelly did.
It's perfect. I feel like I want to end it on that.
You want to what?
End it on that.
Oh, really? No.
We're about that time. Do you have something more?
I feel like the correct solution would be to create a separate country for mutants and then have them work it out.
Well, that's what Magneto wanted to do eventually.
Right, but he
The Asteroid M.
yeah, the Magneto Fortress that is made out of metal, and that he can
Move.
He can move and completely manipulate. It's his domain, which would be pretty cool if your ability was to manipulate metal.
Also pretty dang chilly. Because it's a piece of metal in space.
In space. But I mean, it's just human nature that because if you were to try to have everyone live in harmony, then the people who that are naturally endowed with offensive capabilities, they're going to become bullies.
Bullies.
Bullies, yeah. Because there was a
Power corrupts.
yeah, and that's not just a cliche that's used in I think the first movie.
Yeah.
That Xavier gives to Magneto. There was an experiment in the 70s by a guy whose name starts with a Z, and I can't remember. I think it's
Baron Zemo?
No, I think it's Zimbardo.
Oh, yeah.
I almost said Zhivago, but that's not it.
Dr. Zhivago.
But yeah, it's the Zimbardo experiment where he had his students pretend to be prisoners and pretend to be prison guards, and then what ended up happening was actual cruelty by the prison guards, and then subjugation and acceptance by the prisoners. And even though they were performing this, it ended up just manifesting through these people that you would think are normal
Students.
Yeah, there's students, nice, I guess, otherwise nice people, that putting them in power and giving them no restrictions, manifested this natural bully mentality, this cruelty. And I think that having the average 10th person be a mutant who can control people's minds. Controlling people's minds is a power that no mutant should have. That is ridiculous. And being able to just stop a room, Xavier is way OP.
He should definitely have a license for Cerebro. Because he can kill everyone on Earth with it.
Yeah, talk about it, WMD. I guess he could kill everyone on Earth, or kill everyone in one country, or kill everyone in the Senate, or kill everyone. So I mean, that's ridiculous. It's like, hey, do you mind finding this? This kill the Green Party. Just kill.
Why? It's like kicking a baby.
That's why I brought it up. I didn't want to say like any sort of like actual contentious thing, or it's like, I don't know. Find the Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
Find Al Qaeda.
I bet you better bet your bottom dollar that CIA is going to come knocking on your door and say, "Can you kill this guy for us?"
And then you say no, and they're like, "Well, we're going to kill you."
And then you're
unless you do.
And then you're like,
And then you're like, "You haven't developed a Russian helmet that stops me from killing you."
A what? Nothing.
Oh, nope. Now you don't even remember why you came here.
So is that lead, or is it just a kind of metal?
I don't think it's explained.
Is it good to wear lead on your head always?
I don't think it's lead. I don't think lead stops Professor Xavier. Otherwise, he wouldn't be
Superman.
He wouldn't be able to kill everyone on Earth. It just stops It stops X-rays, but that's not how Xavier works. He doesn't work through X-rays. He works
Although
through
that
X-Men.
would make sense.
Yeah. But anyway, the Xavier MLK parallel falls apart when you realize that Xavier has an underground group of militant X-Men, but they don't work against the humans. They work to stop Magneto.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be like if Martin Luther King, if Malcolm X had been even more globally minded with his and successful with his radical militant moves, like capturing a lot of people, killing a lot of people at the same time, blowing up things. And Martin Luther King was the only one who was actively trying to stop him. It would require violence on Martin Luther King's part.
Right.
So, but fortunately, it never got to that.
Fortunately, I don't think it would have. There is no situation in which MLK is the only person who can stop Malcolm X.
Fortunately, Malcolm X didn't get to the point where we needed a secret organization of highly trained soldiers to take.
Although there are some that believe he was taken down by the FBI.
Oh, that he wasn't taken out by the Nation of Islam?
Well, both. They believe there's a guy by the name of, I don't remember, who was like the right-hand man or an aide to Elijah Muhammad, who basically incited the idea that Malcolm X was an enemy to the Islamic boys and
Islamic boys.
The Nation of Islam.
That's a singing group.
the Singing Sons. He's quoted saying, like, it is a risk on your own life to oppose Elijah Muhammad, and some say that he was an FBI informant, undercover FBI agent.
This friend of Elijah Muhammad?
Yeah, a member of the group.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well,
I mean,
people say that the FBI had
nothing to do with
MLK killed too.
I wouldn't doubt that either. The FBI has done some really shady things and covered up a lot of things. Not quite as much as the CIA, but still. Just look up when Nazis showed up on American shores in Florida and New York.
Okay. I don't know anything about that, so I will look that up.
Okay, yeah, look it up. Nazis were here. During World War II, Nazis were here in Florida. And the FBI took them down.
Good?
Yeah, good.
Did they sock him in the jaw? Figuratively?
No. That was all caps responsibility.
All caps.
All caps. So that pretty much wraps up what the underlying story behind X-Men. Kind of. I hope we didn't spoil too much.
I hope we didn't ruffle feathers. It's kind of a touchy subject.
Did you? You ruffle the feathers of a velociraptor or something? Or a T-Rex. I cannot picture a T-Rex with feathers.
I choose not to.
Yeah. Sure, that's great. Let's not. Let's just not.
Let's not. Yeah, right.
Okay.
I choose to believe that Stevie Speaks invented dinosaurs.
If you want to get in touch with us, You can visit us at facebook.com/THNDRSmash. You can tweet at us at _ThunderSmash. You can visit our Instagram, Thunder_Smash. You can send us an email, teamthundersmash@gmail.com. But wait, the most important one is please subscribe on iTunes.
Yes.
It is free. I don't know if I pointed this out before. I just say subscribe on iTunes, and it sounds like you have to pay for something. No, it is 100% free. It's something on iTunes that's free. Go get it.
Listen, though. Today, half the internet went down because of a server.
Mm-hmm.
An Amazon server that's very pervasive went down.
Amazon Cloud.
Yeah. And the SoundCloud was acting funny. Our SoundCloud feed was like going really slowly.
But you know what wasn't going slowly?
Your own downloaded version of the podcast, which you can get through iTunes or other podcast downloading apps.
Right, so if you want immunity from freak internet accidents, then this is the way to do it.
Yeah. Subscribe.
It's probably Magneto's fault.
Yeah, probably.
I imagine he has a huge problem with electronics. Like, he probably destroys his phone every time.
He seems to have a handle on it, on his powers, though.
He just, like, creates a protective bubble around his phone and all of his friends' phones.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he could create a shield to deflect, like, Cyclops' beams.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way in the X-Men.
You learned that the hard way?
Yeah, I learned
when you tried to shoot a beam at Magneto.
I learned that the hard way in the Wolverine's Revenge video game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. I should have let you finish.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, until next time.
Oh, I patted a cat yesterday. That's what happened.